So a few years ago, I was taking voice activation session with an awesome person from Lake Atitlan in Guatemala. She's a she used to be an opera singer, so she knew all of the techniques to actually produce proper sound and how to work the diaphragm. But she was also very intuitive, so therefore, she was just essentially teaching the proper techniques to let sound out while also working through different chakras. So for me, there was a big throat chakra activation through this process, which led me to communicate with whales. And the way I did that, I put actually, I didn't use headphones. I actually had a speaker and I was blasting. I found like an hour long whales singing, just whales, strictly whales, a soundtrack on, I think it was Spotify. And yeah, so I started playing that. And then what happened is, as I'm starting to listen to this whale, I feel an energy on top of my crown chakra. And I'm like, whoa. And then I can feel and hear the whales through their singing telling me, they're like, we know we are being recorded right now, and we want you to listen to this. So instantly, I was like, whoa, this is very magical. What's happening here? But then I think my own subconscious took over and I started feeling very stressed and anxious. Essentially, at the time, I was projecting my own stress and anxiety onto the situation. And I just assumed, like, oh, yeah, like the earth, the waters are very bad right now. There's a lot of pollution. And I didn't really know how to interpret the rest of the message. So I go back to my next voice activation session with my coach and I tell her this and she's like, I think you should do it again because you may get a different result. So I went back home and I did it again, and sure enough, I not only had a different result, but what these whales wanted to talk to me about completely blew my mind. And that was only like 15 minutes out of this transmission. So essentially, what they talked to me about was the infamous Philosopher's Stone, changing base elements into gold or other elements. Is it really possible? According to whales, it's not only possible, but here is how you do it. My name is Izzy, and welcome back to the download. It turns out that whales might be the most evolved creature on our planet, far surpassing mankind as far as scientific understanding goes. Therefore, if we could further develop our abilities to communicate with whales, we could advance scientifically like nothing before. What they were telling me essentially about the Philosopher's Stone and the ability to change base metal into gold, if you say, is what you need to do is, and you don't need equipment at all. You can only do that using your prana. So, providing that you have awakened your unity consciousness and you are embodied in that, which I have made a couple of videos about this, and I will list them in the description box below if you want to look into this topic further. But let's say you are finally embodied into your Jedi awareness and you are into like unity consciousness. This is important to operate at that level. And let's say you have enough prana and you really like your solar plexus is powerful and it's open without any restriction, fear, and whatnot. So you take this energy and you can start feeling into your environment. And from there, you can start feeling into an atom. You cannot restructure an atom without first feeling into it first. And what the whales were telling me is once you feel into an atom, you can freeze the electrons solid so they stop moving. And we all know that every time an electron moves, it's what it emits light. Therefore, In that moment where all the electrons are frozen, you essentially have dark matter in some ways. Similar, not quite. In that process, once you have frozen the electrons, you can actually reorganize the protons and the neutrons inside of the atomic nuclei to form a different element. This comes from the whales, that's what they're telling me. And now you might wonder, yeah, but there's so much matter into an atomic nuclei, right? So, and even to make it more simple, if I have a basket with eggs and I have 6 eggs and 3 limes, I can switch them around, but I still only going to have 6 eggs and 3 limes, correct? Yes, but when you are fully embodied into Jedi awareness and your mind is into unity consciousness, you are no longer operating within the matrix. You are actually the program behind that's supporting the software of the matrix. Therefore, you can do absolutely what you want. And now, does that mean that everybody is going to be out there and changing base metal into gold or whatnot? No, because there are still balance that is needed and there still needs to be harmony. Therefore, these abilities of changing the atomic structure of something will mostly be made available for people who are anchored in unconditional love for all that there is and are embodied into developing a symbiotic relationship with Mother Earth. Because once you're embodied in a symbiotic relationship with all that there is, you do not want your higher self is not going to allow you to mess up with the balance of things because ultimately that could be destructive to our environment. So if you think now of the Philosopher's Stone, it's yes, maybe we could start changing certain things into metals to create free energy or whatnot. But I'm thinking more here in a way of healing our planet that's taking quite a beating in the last few years, with all of the technological advancement and the pretty much since the what is called the industrial era and all the chemicals and whatnot. But this ability of awakening to the philosopher's stone and do this with our prana, this is what opens the door to the restructuration of our water that's been perhaps tainted with too many chemicals from plants. It also would help with restoring the proper CO2 in our atmospheres and whatnot. So this is what I'm talking about, essentially the uses of why we would want to unlock the Philosopher's Stone. So I hope that answers your questions, that you find this interesting. If you have any questions, please write me in the comment section below. My name is Izzy, and I send out weekly newsletter from my website if you want to register. And it has exclusive information about the energies of the week to help you with transits, healing, as well as activations. So you can check it, the download, again in the description box. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.